What is up, Big Red Nation? Welcome to the Maryland episode of What Just Happened. And man, what just happened yesterday in College Park, Maryland was amazing. It was great. I am very, very happy with yesterday's game. Now, throughout the game, was I all over the place? Of course. But man, something about that win, I didn't feel after the game, I just felt joy. Like I really did. It just felt good to get that win. And it didn't feel like one of those aggravating, like, no, like still kind of mad about how the game went, but hey, good win. At least we won kind of feel. It wasn't one of those games where it took listening to a couple post-game shows and kind of talking things out that I started feeling better about the win. I was just happy. It was just good. Man, it hasn't, and we haven't had wins like that in a while. And maybe it's just because of, hey, look around college football as a whole. Um, I think college football. Here's like just kind of a overall general thought that I had yesterday, especially looking at all the different scores. This is a brand new era of college football, and college football has clearly changed so much that I just don't think us as fans are actually ready for that. So we don't really know how to um, take in everything that's happening. We still are watching this with, our old eyes on college football, on how just the game is played, how teams win or teams lose, how teams are ranked, just all that, just everything about college football is, I think, entirely different. And it's going to take some time to getting used to for sure. Because man, you look at what is going on with Penn State. Lost to Northwestern at home. Penn State still does not have a Power 4 win on the season. Then you look at Texas. Texas before yesterday didn't have a Power 4 win on the season. And then they go up against ranked undefeated Oklahoma. And I didn't get to watch the game, obviously, because it was on during the Husker game. But, you look at what the score is. They handled them. Maybe not dominate, but they definitely handled them. So many teams are losing. Pitt, they won yesterday. They beat a ranked team yesterday. Beat Florida State, who started off the year dominating Alabama, who then beat Missouri yesterday in a pretty, convincing win. Just all these different things and all these different games, upsets constantly every week. I think it's just this new college football. Man, yeah. But anyway, so we're gonna get into the game. I kind of want to start off with just kind of chatting overall on just the weekend as a whole. Like I said, on the game, just some thoughts, some in-game thoughts that I had that I jotted down kind of during the game and a little bit after the game. I know obviously I'm doing this morning. I know my plan was to do it last night. Woke up yesterday morning not feeling the best, so I didn't really want to do the show last night. I'm sure you guys can probably still hear it a little bit in my voice. But so I just went ahead and decided if I felt better this morning, I would get up and just do it this morning, which I'm feeling better. Here I am. But yeah, so something that caught my eye yesterday during the game, or at the very end of the game, and he came in throughout, was Turner Corcoran. Now, people know, like, there's been games, I think it was the Michigan game specifically, where he was in and did what Turner Corcoran usually does whenever we see him play, and that is not play very well, get beat very easily, and not, whatever. Got to give him props. Got to eat some crow on this. Yesterday, he came in for Elijah Pritchard there at the end of the game. And he was coming in as that third tackle throughout, but he came in to be that left tackle at the end of the game, and he did his thing. He did a very good job. Stood in there and helped us go down there to score that, game-winning drive. So, you know, I like I said, I'm always going to try to be consistent and be honest. And hey, look, whenever I say something that I get proven wrong on, I'm getting proven wrong on. So good Turner Corcoran came in, played very well. So shout out to Turner. Shout out to Emmett Johnson. Man, the fact that he did not get a touchdown yesterday is criminal, though. Have 176 yards and 0 touchdowns is insane. Man needs to get the ball more inside the 10. I still don't like necessarily how some of the play calling inside the 10-yard line, but we did score on some of those pass plays. Obviously, the game winning one, stuff like that. So, at the end of the day, it does come down to execution. It's not always about the play calling, but I would have liked to have seen us run the ball a little bit more inside the 10. Emmett was clearly on another level yesterday and was able to run the ball very well. I think you need to stay with that. And that kind of goes throughout the game. On that first drive, Emmett's almost getting like 10 yards of carry almost. And then we decide to throw it on first down. And then all of a sudden our offense kind of sputters. And then we go for it on fourth down. And it was kind of like a rush play because we were kind of running out of the play clock. And then we just kind of hand it off right up the middle and then we just get stuffed. And it's just like, what are we doing? And I know and I get that usually that first drive, it's all scripted out. So you're going off of more of a script, but hey, whenever you see somebody that's just straight up dominating, don't go away from it. Make them stop you. Then go back to your script. Just go, hey, look, hey, we're just gonna keep running Emmett right now while he's gashing people for almost 10 yards of carry. Stuff like that. That was just, again, there were definitely things during the game that you can critique and you can get frustrated with. But at the end of the day, you can't get mad about any kind of win on the road in the Big Ten. You can't. You just cannot. Again, you look around college football and you look at all these upsets. You look at these teams that I'll keep going back to Penn State, and then again, you just look around all of college football and you look at all those upsets. Can't get mad about any kind of win. A win is a win. We're 5-1. And, that's clearly the big takeaway. The other kind of takeaway that I started thinking of, because, a lot of fans are saying this in period is you look at the Cincinnati game, the Michigan State game, and now this game. And really, you even can put the Michigan game in this as well. The finish wasn't the one that we wanted, but this team has clearly flipped the culture and is constantly fighting and constantly thinks that they're in a game to win a game. They're constantly fighting. They're never giving up. They're not letting one little thing just blow up and ruin the whole game. Might get them out of rhythm, might get them out of sorts for a chunk of the game. But they pick it up, they get in there, and they fight through it, and they get corrected. Yesterday, Dylan did not have his best game. That one interception, whenever he was throwing to Cortez Mills, could have been more of on Cortez about not running the route correctly necessarily. But the other two, man, make sure if you're throwing it out of bounds, make sure it's actually going way out of bounds. Just get it all the way out. And then the other one was just one of those things again where it's his vision sometimes I feel is not there, because it's how did you not see that guy clearly just right there? But at the end of the day, he didn't let that fully affect him whenever it mattered at the end of the game to go down, be clutch, and throw some insane throws to Heinrich Harburg and all that stuff. And then, of course, to Dane Key for the game-winning touchdown. They stayed focused. They stay in this game. The culture has fully flipped. So I know I was one of them. I know a lot of other fans out there that constantly said the last 2 years, hey, even though some of these players are good, we need to get the Scott Frost players out of this program. We didn't think anything was going to change until they were fully out of this program. Now, of course, you still have a couple. I get it, Prohaska, Corcoran, whatever. But the majority of them are gone. And you're finally seeing things click, and you're finally seeing things flip to being a team that never says die, that doesn't let the small things blow up and snowball, that, they don't let bad calls. The mentality of, and we know this was the mentality of the team because Scott Frost said this in many, many, many press conferences. They kept waiting for something to happen instead of going and making that thing happen. Right? How many times we hear Scott Frost say, oh, we're just snake bit, we're just we're waiting for that one good thing to happen and then we can kind of get some momentum off of that. That's what his program kept waiting for. Matt Rule says, no, we're not going to be victims, right? We're going to go out and we're going to dominate. We're going to be alphas. We're going to make this happen. Something bad happens. We're not going to wait for something to be given to us. We're going to go take it. And that's what this program is now starting to really develop, is that mentality of winners, to go win, go take the game, go take the ball, go do these things. So I think some of us fans are kind of being proven correct. Maybe it's just coincidence that it's just the timing of, it's also now the third year of the program. So that's whenever culture just kind of starts to develop and change. Yeah, that could very well be. But I also think a good chunk of it has to do with that. Let's see here. What? Yeah. Oh, again, the perspective thing. So, again, at the end of the day, you start looking around college football and you start looking at the other scores, right? So, again, it's very easy because we're all emotional, right? Especially in sports. We get very emotional. We get very involved in the game itself. And, you start saying things like, okay, start Latif because Dylan just threw 3 interceptions and he sucks and blah, blah, blah. And our defense can't stop anybody. And you start getting mad and you're like, oh, we're so much better than Maryland. How are we down? How are we losing? How are we playing like this against Maryland and all this stuff? Well, you know what? At least you're not Oklahoma, who lost to Texas. We're not Penn State, who lost to UCLA and then Northwestern. All right. Indiana. Nobody thought Indiana would go beat Oregon. Everybody's thinking basically it was Ohio State, Oregon, and everybody else. Indiana went in to Eugene and beat Oregon, right? Colorado, who has just not been good. They're thinking their program might be done because Dion might even have to, retire due to health reasons. Nobody knows what's going on with that program. They've not been good. They beat Iowa State. And then again, like I said, Pitt beat Florida. Sometimes you got to just sit back and look around college football and realize this is just college football. And you know what? Watching yesterday's game, I have a feeling whenever we play USC, the game's going to be very similar. Maryland reminds me a lot of what I have seen so far from USC. Like the same kind of team. A really good quarterback that can kind of, who's athletic, who can kind of run a little bit. I think Maeva runs a little bit more than Washington. But they've got good, tall, athletic wide receivers. They've got a pretty good, decent run game. But it's not like a dominant, great run game. They've got decent offensive line. And then their defense is not great, but opportunistic, athletic. So I think I just have a feeling like that game is going to be very similar to what we just saw. I think Maryland might be actually closer to USC talent-wise too than maybe we want to give Maryland credit for. Maryland's problem has always been, I think, just their program. and their culture and being able to put it all together. I think they've always had athletes, they've always had abilities. They put guys in the NFL constantly. Their problem, I think, might just be Loxley and the way he runs his program. That could just be the case on why they just don't really win whenever it comes to conference games all of a sudden. But yeah, so again, just trying to help put perspective on this game, on this team, and how we do things. But yeah, the biggest takeaway too from this game is how inconsistent our team is playing. That is one thing I definitely would like to see start to get better sooner rather than later. We're getting that part of the season. We're getting to the middle part of the season where some of the inconsistencies should be shored up. And what I mean by that is, and I don't know if it could be play calling too. It could be just players having trouble staying focused play to play. But I really, especially on the defense yesterday, is where I really noticed this. But it happens on both sides of the ball. And it's like one series, they look dominant. They look fast. They look aggressive. They look like they're going out there to try to take that ball away, get them to go 3 and out, give them like maybe 2 yards total on a drive. And then they come out the very next drive and let them go 10 plays for 17 minutes and, whatever it is, and then go score. And that's something that I just kind of hope that we can kind of start anyway, can't think of the word now. Anyway, sure up and get that just kind of going. We're, like I said, we're getting to that part of the season where these things need to start getting better. And then of course, special teams. What else can we say about special teams? That is, I think special teams is almost single-handedly the reason why we are 5-1. And in the one game this year that we lost, I think is the one game where special teams kind of let us down. And that's that Michigan game, right? Missed field goal. We some of the returns, like even though Jacory had like one decent one, then he also had the one where I think if he doesn't get the one little pinky on his cleat and goes down, he's gone for a touchdown. Some of those things. But this game made field goals. We covered kickoffs very well. We almost had a return for a touchdown. Kenneth Williams, got to smell that end zone, got to get in. Yeah, special teams played great again. Archie had kind of a bad punt, but that really didn't affect too much, thankfully. But yeah, just overall, man, this game was a lot of fun. We're going to dive into some stats here in a little bit, but I wanted to play this thing first. I don't know I'm sure a lot of people have seen this video. If you haven't, that's why I'm going to play it here. This is part of college football that has not changed, that I think purists still love. But here's the video after the game.
I don't like singling out anybody. I don't like making it about anybody, one even person. Okay, but there's sometimes it has to be right in the world. Okay, sometimes it has to be right in the world. Give it up for our AD, Troy Dana, please.
Kenneth, get up here.
Stay down! What about for my scholarship?
Dude, I just heard you don't have a scholarship.
No, sir.
You do now.
Oh, man. How great is that? How great is that? Love it. Kenneth Williams getting a scholarship after having a really good game and really having a pretty good season. Like, yeah, he hasn't had like huge returns, but most of his returns have been pretty good, getting us up to about the 30-ish, 25, 30-ish yard line here the last handful of games. And so you love to see it, man. Whenever guys, bet on themselves like that and don't have a scholarship, but come to a big place like Nebraska and work hard and get on the field and get rewarded. And that's part of college football that, luckily it hasn't changed. And that was just a great moment. Love that stuff. Brings a smile to my face. So good on Kenneth Williams. Congrats, young man, on getting that. Now, let's go ahead. Let's dive into some stats here. And all right, Emmett Johnson. I mean, look, great game. Longest 50 yards, busting one long. Emmett just dominant, just absolutely dominant. What a beast. Isaiah Mosey came in, had a couple good runs, I thought. 24 yards, but almost 5 yards a carry. Emmett almost 8.5 yards a carry. Dylan, even though again, he even in bad games, his stat lines are just odd. Because they're still like decent. 20 of 29, 260 yards, 4 touchdowns, but then the 3 picks. I mean, it's gotta, and the 3 picks, obviously, look, that's an anomaly. All right. He tripped, he almost, if he would have thrown one more, he would have doubled in one game what he's thrown all season. And that's only, he had 2 coming into this game and he threw 3 in this game. Don't expect that to happen too often, is what I'm trying to say. And then in the passing game, man, Isaiah Hunter, what a get from Cal. What a get. And here's the best part. I think he's still only a sophomore. So we got him at least one more year, hopefully 2 more. And then, guys around him that are young that could still come up, like a Keelan Smith, the Quinn Clark, Cortez Mills, Jeremiah Jones. All these guys could just keep developing. Ja'Cory Barney, obviously, could just keep developing too with them. And we could have a very dangerous wide receiver room going forward in the future years. But yeah, and Isaiah Hunter, 5 catches for 125 yards, just a stud. Dane Key came in, had some great catches, 4 catches, 43 yards and a touch. Luke Lennemeyer and Heinrich Harburg with some absolute clutch catches in very important parts of this game. Ja'Cory, didn't have his best game, but, that's going to happen from time to time whenever he just had back-to-back, games of just where he was the superstar. Teams are going to then try to blanket him, right? And that's going to happen. But whenever that does happen, that's whenever an Isaiah steps up, Dane Key steps up. Then, after 2 games in Isaiah, going into Minnesota's probably going to say, hey, if we can stop an Isaiah Hunter, we'll let the other guys try to beat us. Well, then it's up to Dane Key, Ja'Cory Barney, Luke Lennemeyer, and all these guys then to step up if they do a good job of actually blanketing Isaiah. And that's just going to happen. So I think, again, a lot of the talk was what happened to Dane Key. He's kind of gone quiet. He kind of disappeared for a couple games. Blah, blah, blah. Well, it's because, in a couple of those games, he was the one that was the standout. So I think a lot of teams probably started game planning for Dane Key. But then Ja'Cory has stepped up and Isaiah has stepped up. And now they decided to game plan Ja'Cory Barney. So then Isaiah fully stepped up again. Now, Isaiah's got a couple games on film now where he's the guy. And so now teams are probably going to start trying to game plan for him. That's just kind of how this is going to go. But the fact that they have done such a good job of really building this room, we have plenty of wide receivers that could all of a sudden turn up and show out and pick up where other people are being defended well. On defense, we had a return of Marquez Watson Trent. The law firm is what I like to call him because, the 3 names. He returned and played pretty decent. He had 6 tackles, which is good. Javen Wright out there just all over the place, 12 tackles. He's kind of turned into the guy that's just all over the place and getting double-digit tackles almost every game now. Cade Petrock with that huge sack. That was a great play. Defense, though, it seemed like they were really playing to kind of keep everything underneath. we were now this time kind of doing that Cincinnati defense of trying to make sure that Malik Washington can't beat us deep. And I think they were willing to give up runs to negate that. And they did. They were the 18th out of 18 teams ranked in the Big Ten in rush offense, and they went off for 130 yards. Now, not one guy was doing that. They had two good runners. They both got like 50 and 60 yards. And then, like Malik Washington had a little bit. But the Maryland offensive game plan told me that is going to be something now, regardless if their quarterback likes to run or not. They're going to run their quarterback because that has clearly been an issue for our defense. Whether that's part of their offense or not, they're going to put that type of stuff in whenever they come to play us. So that's something that we're going to really have to look at. Here's the biggest worries for me. Whenever we play Northwestern with Preston Stone, UCLA with Nico Amaliva, that game now really becomes worrisome for me. Not because I think UCLA is really playing that well. I think they're kind of having a nice little rallying moment. But I still don't think they're necessarily all that great. But Nico is a talented guy, and he is a very talented runner. He's probably the closest thing to what we saw from Brandon Sorsby, where he is like a legit dual threat, good runner. And that part is what scares me whenever now we have to go play UCLA. And same thing too with whenever we play Iowa. Again, Iowa as a whole doesn't scare me. I don't think they have a very good team, but Gronowski can run, and he can run very well. So the fact that you have now a offense that just did not ever run, definitely not their quarterback. Their quarterback clearly does not like to run, and I'll make my point on that here in a second. But they put in run plays for their quarterback into this game. They went out of their offensive identity, their philosophy on offense, to pinpoint a clear weak spot on our defense. So that's something that they definitely need to shore up going forward and figure out how they want to defend that much better to shut that down. And so what I meant by with Malik Washington, he clearly does not like to run. And there was two moments where it became very clear. And we got a little lucky by that. And the first one, the big one, was on that 4th and 5, I think it was. And I think it was very early on in the game. Might have been their first drive. Maybe that was that 4th down. I'm trying to remember now. But he scrambled and was running to the out of bounds. But because we had a guy coming in on him, he ran out like just short and thought he reached across, but he didn't reach across where the first down marker was until he was already out of bounds. Because he was more concentrated on getting out of bounds and getting the first down. If he was a guy that actually didn't mind running, he would have probably lowered his shoulder to make sure he got that, or, wouldn't have been as afraid to take that one more half step in bounds before he got out. But he didn't want to get hit. Another time later on in the game where he went to go slide, and instead of sliding to get a first down, or instead of going forward or something, kind of did like what Dylan did last year. He slid early and was like 2 or 3 or just like 2 yards short of the first down. And then we stopped the pass out to the flat for another loss of like a yard. And then all of a sudden they're punting or whatever it was. So that's what I mean by like Maryland and Malik Washington specifically, clearly that's just not part of their game plan. That's not part of their offense philosophy. He does not like to run, but then they still made sure to put quarterback run plays into this game. That's something that clearly now stands out and is going to be something that I think all teams are going to do. Could be even next week against Minnesota. Their quarterback does not run at all. Like, he's just not a runner. Very good passer. And we'll dive more into Minnesota later on this week, but I'll kind of try to see what I can find in game film and really kind of maybe I just misspoke there about him not being a runner, but I don't believe he is. I haven't heard much about that. But that's something that they'll probably put in too for Friday night's game. I don't put that past PJ Fleck. I think he's a pretty good coach, and for whatever reason, he's got Nebraska's number. So, I just think overall, though, the game was amazing. Because it was like, if you weren't a Husker fan or a Maryland fan and you were just watching a college football game, you probably thought yesterday was a hell of a game. Very exciting. I think at one time they put up a stat where it was just a game of runs. Nebraska started up 10-0 or scored 10 unanswered. Then Maryland scored 14 unanswered. Then Nebraska scored 14 unanswered. Then Maryland scored 17 unanswered. And then we scored the rest of the points to win the game. So very back and forth. And you do the runs due to inconsistencies, like I mentioned. That definitely needs to get tightened up. One other thing too here, last week, right? Everybody was talking about how bad the announce crew was, especially like Tim Brando was just not on his game. And so I want to shout out this week, Jake Butt. Jake Butt does his homework. He knows ball. Thank you, sir, for doing your homework, being very knowledgeable and knowing guys' names and all that stuff, because your coworker, a guy named Guy, clearly didn't. Calling names, people's names just all over the place on names. I think that's the one thing as a announce crew you should be able to do is know people's names. You don't have to memorize them, but you should know them. You usually have like a roster right in front of you. Like, you should be able to not call people odd names. Just do that at least. But so I want to give a shout out to Jake Butt. He did a great job. I think he's going to have a very good future in being an analyst. I think he was good. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to get on out of here so I can go get some more rest today. Try to get rid of this, whatever it is. I don't know if it's just being run down from such a long week, or if I'm getting a little something that's kind of been going around. But I need to get this kicked before another long week of work. So go Big Red, Husker Nation. Just love the games. Man, we're 5-1. Being ranked. I don't know. Like, I won't be surprised if we're not. But I do think we will get ranked because of just how many teams lost, especially lost at the back end of the top 25. Like, at some point, we've kind of just got to get put in because we're 5-1, and other teams now are like have 2 losses, 3 losses on the season. Now, do they feel like other teams feel more deserving depending on who they've played? Maybe. So that's why I'm like, I was one of those guys. I didn't think we'd ever get put in until towards the end of the year, just due to who we play. And the voters not willing to put Nebraska in until they really, really see something. But after, again, all those other losses, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we get ranked, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we don't get ranked. But I think we're going to. I think we're going to be like 24, 25 today. So keep your eyes open for the polls. Hopefully that'll happen. I kind of see where people come from, where they're saying, like, at the end of the day, the rankings don't matter, but they do. And again, kind of like I talked about in my last episode, where we talked about, just how fans like the clamoring to be on the scene, to be seen, to be in the national scene, to be talked about, to be back up there and being relevant. Being ranked helps go that way. And that's why I want to see us be ranked so bad. Is just to be talked about. Because whenever you're in the top 25, now like Game Day and Fox Noon Kickoffs and stuff like that, all these shows, they usually try to talk about every top 25 game. And whenever you're not in there, you're not going to be, one of your games is not going to be talked about. It's not going to be previewed. So that's why I hope we do. And hopefully it happens. Things start getting talked about. But if we do, Nebraska in the past, whenever you finally start getting that respect, they come out and don't play well. They don't back it up. So that could be another hurdle if we do get ranked that Matt Rule is going to have to clear, and that is come out against Minnesota on the road, short week, back-to-back road wins. I mean, there's a lot of things here that Nebraska has not done that's going to be into this game, and Matt Rule's now got to do that. From what I've seen so far with the fight of this team, I think this team can do it. I really, really do. But we're going to have to wait and see. So again, hey, enjoy the win. I know I did. I am still I'm smiling. I'm happy. It feels good to wake up in the morning with the Husker win. Felt good to go to sleep with the Husker win. And especially just the way we won. Yes, Husker Nation, we're on our way back. Let's just keep going, man. Let's just keep the faith and let's keep going. Let's go beat Minnesota. Go Big Red. And I will talk to you guys later.